Hi, this is Heidi from Garden Crossings, and some of you have been asking me for a tour of my home garden. So I'm going to do that today, but that being said, it's October 9 and it's very end of season, so things aren't looking super great, but at least you'll get an idea of what I have where, sizes of shrubs and such, and etc. So we'll go ahead and start this. I'm going to apologize right up front. It'll probably be a long video, so for those of you who stick with me to the end, thank you, and I welcome any comments you have below. So to start off with, we'll start right at the mailbox, right at the front of the house. So this year I was doing a trial of the Super Tunia Vista Whiteouts. That there is a planting of 2 of the Vista Whiteouts. And again, very end of season, so they don't look super spectacular, but that still is a lot of color here for an October. That's a new Vista Super Tunia. This clematis here is still McKivy, and I trimmed this back in July to the ground because I knew that I'd done it before and it bloomed in the fall, and it did not disappoint this year. So tons of flowers, tons of buds. So don't be afraid to trim your clematis if they're done flowering for the season, because I think in the fall they may reward you with a secondary bloom. All right, so we'll start off at the front of the house here. This is definitely my fall planting. What I have up front here are garden mums that we stick into pots in the ground. Those mums get replaced with petunias in the spring, and we can just pop the mums out of the ground and put a petunia right back into that spot. Here's a grouping of butterfly bush. This is lilac chip. That's a grouping of 3, and they're pretty much done, but you do see some color. My hanging baskets I do transform with seasons. So in the spring and summer they are petunias and such, and in the fall here I have them planted with mums, asters, corabels, and then the tall thing you're seeing in the back there, that is an arborvitae shrub. I'll go in for a closer look there. They are lighted baskets, so at night they do glow, and I think that just gives them extra interest. In the winter that'll get changed out to evergreen type things with some red berries. As we head to the side of the house here, those are Bobo hydrangeas. Beautiful fall color going on right now. That's a grouping of 3. They only get about 3 foot tall and 3 foot wide in that location, and I think they're doing really nice. This is a newer addition to my garden. This is a proudberry shrub, and this is about 3 to 4 foot tall and wide. But look at these beautiful fall berries. Nice pink berry clusters. So I think that's something that the birds will probably enjoy this fall going into the winter. And that is a proudberry. I'll back up a bit so you can see these Anna's Magic Ball. This is a grouping of 5. These are probably about 6 years old now, and they're definitely at mature size. So they're about 18 inches tall and about 18 inches wide. I have them planted around a standard lilac tree, and that tree is a rebloomer. So usually I get a really beautiful spring bloom and then kind of secondary blooms throughout the season. As we head down to the side of the house, the bright pink you're seeing there, that is the Sun Patient neon pink. And for October, they're still doing amazing. The shrub in front of us is the Quickfire hydrangea. That is one of the earliest blooming hydrangeas I have in my garden. It's kind of a lace cap, and it starts off white and turns to red. And I would say these blooms are well on their way to being called spent blooms, but they still have very beautiful color even though they're past their prime. Heading down the hill here, we're going to pass some Bobo hydrangeas and some Pugster butterfly bush. Pugsters are very compact, about 18 to 24 inches tall and about 24 inches wide. There's one flower left there, bright, beautiful bright blue. This area of my garden is super dry. Nothing does well in it. So I've just put some really big plants. There's 2 of the hardy hibiscus, and in the back there is a little lamb hydrangea. As we come down, again, you can tell there's a lot of hydrangeas in the garden here. This is another Bobo in front of us. This here is Invincible Ruby. And again, this I'm just going to show you for size. That's about 4 foot tall, 4 foot wide. And in this little area here in the back there, those are mini mauvettes, and they're about 24 to 30 inches tall and wide. As we take the corner here, we're going to pass by a blue chip butterfly bush. Still has some color on it. Making our rounds. That huge hosta there is Shady, and that thing's huge. This area here faces the east, so it's kind of a part sun, part shade area. I have hostas in here, Alstroemeria, some Astilbe. This red, we'll go in for a closer look. That's Alstroemeria Inca Jolie. And over here to my right is Alstroemeria Inca Ice. So we didn't really get a hard frost the other night, but it did get pretty cold, so some things are starting to really take that fall toll. Under my deck, it's just loaded full of hostas, different sizes and colors. I do have a couple of Astilbe that I tuck in there, just for little pops of color. Behind this window here, I have the, those are the Invincible Wee White hydrangeas, and in front of those is the new Lantana for 2020. This little roundabout area is planted with the Nepeta Cat's Pajamas, and then that's the Wild Rose Heuchera there in the middle. This area here, when it's in bloom, has roses, coneflowers, and then I tuck annuals and stuff in here too, just for some consistent color. Back there's a very shady area filled with hostas. This big plant in front of me is Lythrum, or Loosestrife, and that looks really beautiful in the summer. And in front of our shed here, we've got some more mini mauvettes. And then the pink you're seeing, those are all the bubblegum Vista petunias, and they're still doing pretty good for October. The grass there is the Huron sunrise grass. It's just starting to come into bloom. Beautiful red plumes. Take a turn and head over to this garden over here. This garden is an area where we had a huge 30-foot or so maple tree that fell over in a storm, and we've replanted this with very, very consistent items. So my garden, you'll notice there's not a lot of the same. In this garden here, it's definitely a repetitive theme. There are the bloomerang purple, the dwarf purples, that's that. We have Weigela My Monet, and we also have Atlas roses in this garden. So that's kind of the consistent theme with my perennial and shrubs. We'll go in for a look at the Atlas roses. They smell beautiful. And then we had extra of the sun patiens at the greenhouse, so we put sun patien red all throughout this garden. I wasn't sure how it was going to look because my theme is very pink, but I think it was really beautiful. I love seeing that red with the orange. I have a little visitor that just landed on me. There's a lot of dragonflies here in our garden because there's a creek out back, so we see dragonflies quite often. All right, we're gonna head back to my butterfly garden. This used to be an area that we had the swing set and sandbox when the kids were little, and we don't need that anymore, so we've transformed this into a butterfly garden. So what we've done in this area here is we have lined it with the white sun patiens. And the reason I do the white is because at night, the white just really glows. So that way, when it's dark out, this is kind of a bright pop in the middle of my yard. We have the sunflowers here. Those are the new Suncredible sunflowers for 2020 from Proven Winners. They did absolutely amazing. And when I stand up on my deck, just seeing these two pops of yellow really is pretty. That there's the Bobo hydrangea, followed by Miss Molly butterfly bush. I'll go in and you see the color of that. And another Bobo hydrangea. So I know I mentioned earlier I don't do a lot of the same things in the garden, but I do say the name Bobo quite a bit. So Bobo hydrangea is one of the plants in my garden that I have repeated in many places just because I like the size of it and the color of it. So Bobo is definitely something that I do repeat in my garden. So as we take the walkway in, To my right here, that is a Sonic Bloom Pink Weigela. So that's a rebloomer. That's bloomed 3 times this summer. So I've been real impressed with that. There's a hummingbird. I don't know if we saw it in the picture. More of the Suncredible sunflowers. That there is a firelight grass. I love fireworks grass. I love that in the garden because it adds a little motion, and I think it looks really cool with that dark blue pot. There's a monarch butterfly still flying around. You might have missed the monarch train heading south. In the middle of this little birdhouse area here, I have the Pugster periwinkle butterfly bush, and I think that's just kind of a nice size tucked in there. That thing is super florific when it's blooming. Another thing too I like to add is little statuaries and stuff in the garden. I think it just gives it character. This blue in front of us is the Rockin' Blue Suede Shoe Salvia. This is a new introduction for 2020, and this is where the hummingbird was on. They love the salvias. He's trying to keep coming, so hopefully we'll get a picture of the hummingbird as we're in this area. Every butterfly garden needs to have Asclepias. Asclepias is the host plant for monarch butterflies. This one here is definitely past its prime, but there's a lot of seeds in these seed pods, so they are going to hopefully spread throughout the garden and in other areas of my garden. That way I have a lot of areas for the monarchs to come. The hummingbird, did you just see him zip through there? I haven't seen many this year, so it's kind of a treat to see the one. This area in front of us would have hardy hibiscus and phlox in it if it was in season. So that looks really pretty when that is blooming. One of the favorite bigger hydrangeas in my garden is the Firelight. This here is Firelight hydrangea. It's about 5 to 6 foot tall and 5 to 6 foot wide. It starts off with bright white blooms, and as they age, they turn to this bright red color. I'm going to try to go in and get you a better picture. The sun is a little bright. But it's such an intense red, it's beautiful. All right, so let's head to the back of the garden and show you what we've got back here. So I don't have a lot of shade in my gardens. This is, besides behind the house under the deck, this is really the only shady corner I have. So we utilize this spot with hostas. I have probably 60 or more different varieties of hostas in this area, and I just kind of put them in when I see a hole. So there's a lot of different colors, textures, sizes, a lot of variation in this area. I never really was a big fan of hosta, but when I see it planted like this, it's kind of messy looking, but seeing all the different colors and sizes together, I think really makes one plant stand out from another. Also in this sort of shady area, I have tucked in some coleus and some caladium. So that's giving us just a little bit of reds popped in here, and I think that helps kind of offset the greens a little bit. The back of the garden I have lined with Sun Patience Neon Pink. This was a very consistent mound back in the summer, but now I'm seeing spots that are kind of going shorter and taller, and I think that has something to do with water and the fact that it is getting colder out. But lining the back just really kind of creates something that it pulls your eye to the back garden here. On the other side of this hill, there's a creek. That's usually just a little trickle, but we've had quite a bit of water this year, and so it's probably about 3 foot deep when it's, or excuse me, 2 foot deep when it's normally about ankle deep. In the back there, like I said, coleus. This here is a beautiful alstroemeria. I love the alstroemeria. That's one of the only perennials in my garden that bloom from early season well into the fall. So in this area we've got some polka dot plants and some more Atlas roses, as well as some anemone. This is Fall in Love Sweetly, and that's a great fall bloomer. It starts blooming sometime in late July, August, and lasts well here into the fall. The spiky things that you're seeing just behind the Sun Patience, those are Angelonia. but it's a little too cold for them right now, so I can see buds, but it's just they're not gonna bloom. As we walk over this direction, you'll see that pop of yellow in the back. That is canary wings begonia. Kind of has a nice splash of color. This area of the garden, again, has a lot of hydrangeas up there on that back hill. Those are the incredible blush hydrangeas. The pink in the back you're seeing there, that's Cleome Senorita Rosalita. The sprinkler's on, so I can't get super close. But if you see some little white there, that is a hibiscus, that is white pillar. It's a fairly young plant, so I can't wait until it gets more mature. And again, here you're seeing those sun patients as they've lined the garden. Back there where the sprinkler is going off, there's a little waterfall in a pond. Back by the garden shed, there are little lime hydrangeas that are on either side of the garden shed, and those have done really spectacular. And off to the far left, behind the shed, that is the limelight hydrangea. In this front area here, we've got, again, more Bobo. And we have Incredible and Invincible Spirit. So you can kind of see with them planted together, that's just giving you kind of a size judgment as far as how big one is to the other. We've got some bubblegum petunia that's still doing amazing. That there is Allium Millennium that is now finished blooming. In the back there we have Cleome Senorita and some fireworks grass. Up that little wind spinner there, I have clematis growing. Pink mink does amazing, along with some raguchi. We've got spirea and baptisia in the back there. And then here's another proudberry bush. If there's a shrub you want to try that's just something probably different than what you have in your garden, this proudberry, it does amazing. It's got kind of a grayish blue foliage, those beautiful pink berries. It's just something unlike maybe something else that you have in the garden. And we'll kind of take a little turn here. We've got the yellow popcorn plant that is doing great. In front of that I have lemon coral sedum, and then a few more sun patients popped in between. Behind that popcorn grass, I've got about a 10-foot tower and 8 foot wide, and that's where I grow about 6 different clematises. Looks like I need to get out and get that fence fixed, but that's a really beautiful wall of color when it is blooming. So that's about the end of what I have in my garden. So hopefully for those of you who are curious and wanted to kind of do a walkthrough, hopefully that kind of showed you what I have. Maybe this summer, next summer, when it's more in its prime, I'll do another one so you can compare summer to fall. So on that note, let's end with the at last rose, because I am at last finished with this video, and I hope you're having a great day. This is Heidi from Garden Crossings.